Well, the female has an agenda which is powering them along. So it's the male, but it's different. The female's agenda, she's the mother. He's not. He's the dad. He makes her agenda possible. I mean, this is a traditional view. He provides, he protects. He prioritizes her goal because she so satisfies him. She's everything to him. What he longed for in his youth. What he's appreciated in his mum. In gratitude, he prioritizes now her need. Now, she is a young soul, early teenager, may not have, of course, any awareness of some basic drive to bring new life into the world. She may do. She may be schooled to traditionally have dolls, looking after a baby, so to speak, just as mum looks after her baby brother or baby sister. And she emulates mum and starts to see herself as, well, identifies with this. But she may well not, and it does depend on the culture. But at some point, for instance, when she's found Prince Charming and married to him, it can be, comes upon her, well, darling, what do we do now? In some sense, she's bored. She's bored because her creativity has not yet been met. She's cared for, yes, but that somehow isn't quite her goal. She wants to create. He feels, perhaps, in some ideal sense, I suppose I'm saying, that he has created. They build a home together. They do things together. They do things that bring them pleasure and happiness. And if things are going well, they have some prosperity to some degree. Now, he may not be devoted to her. He may be devoted to a career, of course, something like that. Just as she may not be devoted to having children. She wants a career, perhaps, or a much bigger house. You know, some greater status in the world or community or whatever. But assuming things are good between the two of them, he's so satisfied in her that he's ready for whatever her goal is. It might be his career, it might be her having a family, or it might be just her having a bigger and bigger house, but that probably turns then on him doing rather well in his career, or both of them, or her doing well in her career, or whatever. But do you see the difference that, I'm not saying always is, but certainly can be, between the male and the female? There are exceptions, of course. There are men that are incredibly motivated to have children. There are also men that don't find a female satisfying to them at all. And they may turn to other goals, like perhaps it's the church, or perhaps it's career, or perhaps it's the spirit of adventure. You know, they long to just roam the world. But assuming we have enough people willing to not only have children, but bring them up in some semblance of survivability, then the race continues. Perhaps there are other ways of the race continuing as well, you know. Perhaps we can artificially incubate babies and communally, as a directed society, bring them up and school them and produce citizens that are such that society survives. Not sure at all. All we do know is that in some sense society has survived and developed to whatever it is today. And it seems to have been along certain lines. That may not be that we're locked into that's the only way, but apparently it has been a way. Now, this discourse doesn't seem to have much of spiritual content. Let me just listen to it through for a moment. Well, yes, it occurs to me, everything changes. Not only does everything change, but that means in some sense everything passes in this experience of living that we have here. Even if you see the ideal as that which may have been in the past in some sense, people die. Things end, come to an end. Children grow up and leave home. What then? You know, the career is fantastic, but the body ages and you become retired, which is euphemism for redundant from society's point of view. And suddenly your achievement, whatever it is, seems to turn to dust. And whether you've understood the world and how it functions or why it functions and so on, you've still got dust. Nothing but dust. Oh. As this dawns on you, assuming you're the one that's left and not the one that died, if we're talking about a couple, then as you contemplate what seems to be the inevitable in this world, well, you're potentially hitting a crisis. The solution, of course, just simple rationality, is you would like life eternal, but you're not quite sure what life is. It's been good in many ways, the past, but not if it's going to always come to an end. Because the end, if you risk thinking about it, becomes so threatening that it could even overshadow the joys that you're playing with. So we may then find we long for eternal life. Not really knowing what that would be, but knowing it's not inevitable death anyway. Jesus' story is very simple. I'm come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Life eternal. In fact, Jesus' story view is a bit stronger than this, even. If you would enter into life, suggests, when he talks to the young ruler, that although the young ruler thinks he's got it all at the minute and in some sense is doing well in terms of life, he's not actually alive at all. What does it mean to be not alive? It means to be subject to causes and conditions all beyond your ultimate control. That you're going to hold nothing but dust in the end. In this sense, Jesus is a realist, which is a bit surprising because the world sees Jesus as anything but a realist. It's fanciful make-believe. But no, the realist really should hold the fact that all he has is dust in the end. And that this is not going to be in any way attractive to him. So the realist should have ears to hear. There you are. This is the discourse of Marshall in his role as master of logic. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Well, in case you missed the point, he realizes he has a great need, and the whole point of the Jesus story is that it's going to talk to this need. Now, of course, you could be so negative or so in despair that there's no way you respond to this call. In which case, my hindsight is very good, you understand. One should have attended to such rather more early on in life, when you still had the transitory consolations of what you took to be the joys of living. Perhaps, as the Buddhist says, you should every day remind yourself that one day you are going to leave this world, or die, to put it more succinctly. And the Buddhist, in his certainly Tibetan training anyway, trains you in what the process of dying is and how to get through it. But the Jesus story tells you you're dead already. And if you would enter into life, keep the principles of life. But to do that successfully, you will need to take on board God's name, Dad, in the full understanding of such, which is in power, and in love. And it's the love bit that one might think of as being particularly lacking in much religion. And even the power side of God aligned with the notion of judgment and condemnation rather than help, protection and care, provision. So the Jesus view is that get God in right perspective as Heavenly Dad, and the rest, well, if not takes care of itself, is certainly on a firm foundation. A firm foundation for life. For life is not just creativity, ongoing, but ongoing indeed, and that requires love and care, help, compassion, understanding, sympathy, empathy. Not to mention staying power, integrity, faithfulness, hope, inner peace, joy, meaning to life. And that's what the Jesus story is about. I think it's succinctly referred to in John 17. You may find it more easily understood in attending to other parts of, say, the Gospels. I personally wouldn't commend that you risk looking much further afield because, well, as I've said elsewhere, the Bible is a soup or a porridge of many different religions and stages of religion in different cultures, and put it all together and you have some confusion, which I suspect is the reason for Christianity having such a colourful, chaotic record, really. Let me leave it at that. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.